Okay, chapter 7 talks about assessing phonics skills. And I'm not going to go heavy into this chapter because there's really just some minor things that I need you guys to know about assessing phonics skills. Now, probably the most important thing that you need to know is the heavy importance that nonsense words have when you're assessing phonics skills. So, the sound the words make is most important when you're trying to see phonetically where your students are at. So, when you take a list of nonsense words and you have the kids read them and you're trying to assess them based on their sounds, nonsense words are probably the best indicator of phonetic issues. Why? Well, with nonsense words, students are able to read without having to think about magic E, silent I. Most of the time, these nonsense words are read with the intended sounds that you would think they have. You know, English is a very tricky language, so, you know, when you give them a list of nonsense words to read, they're not having to think about the issues that the English language sometimes brings out. So I wanted to show you, like on our dibbles, which I'm going to do, the nonsense words for grades 2. I'm going to show it to you on my screen. So, vog, tell, vav, lack. I'm reading backwards, so it's taking me a minute. Zeke, rock, n, zub. Those are readily and available to most second graders, and like they would be able to say that. And they wouldn't struggle phonetically saying that because they're just reading, they're just putting together the short sound of the word. There's no long, short, it's just the short sound of the word. You know, it is just a cipher. You know, you are just putting you know, you're just going through those sounds and you're not having to manipulate the sounds to read those. That's why, exactly what I just said, you're not having to manipulate them. That's why nonsense words are so vital in phonics assessment. Now, is a phonics assessment, should it be like the tell-all of when we're trying to figure out a story of a student? No. Okay, phonics is just another key part of putting together a good picture of what a student's reading issue is. That is why it is one test, a subtest of the dibbles. It is a good indicator. Like the book says, it's probably the best way to figure out phonics skills and what are the phonics issues that a student would have. So based on that list, if they cannot, for example, the word Zeke, if they can't get the Z, then you know it's the onset. If they can't get K, then you know it's the rhyme. If they say Zuck instead of Zeke, then you know that the vowel is the issue. And if you notice on that list, there is a short vowel in each one of these words. So you're going to be able to say and since we know it's the beginning, the middle, the end, we need to make sure that we are listening when we test these kids with these nonsense words to be able to say, okay, I know the issue is here. Now, what happens if we give them those nonsense words and they read it incorrectly, or the beginning sound is the end sound, or if they transverse the beginning and the end, or if they just omit the middle. Well, now we're going into our 4 difficulties. Hyperlexic would be out because the hyperlexic would be able to read that. Then we fall into compensator mixed or dyslexia. So now, based on what we're seeing, now we can kind of move forward a little bit with what the issue is with the child. With this nonsense word phonics assessment, the other big thing that we have to know is we have to know that these have to be timed. You can't just let them take their time and kind of work through. It needs to be automatic. So they need to be able to read it at a pretty decent pace. So the time tests are a better indicator of where the child is at because you know how quickly they're able to recall sound. Okay, if there's no time, they're able to manipulate the sounds with invented spelling, or they're able to come up with what the sounds are without really knowing what it is. So under time, we're getting exactly what they know because you're getting their reaction based on what they're seeing. Okay, so you are able to tell they know it or they don't. There is a section that talks about orthographic knowledge and how to understand where the orthographic testing goes to place, and I want to make sure I talk about that very quickly. So they talk about experimental tasks with orthographic knowledge. They talk about kind of having the student figure out which one is more likely to be the word, and they also talk about identifying correct spelling. I think those are good. And I think those are good tasks. But when I'm testing phonics, I am a big fan of the nonsense word. I think that's the best indicator, especially for your kindergarten, first grade, to tell you what the issue is. I like this sentence that the book says. Nonsense word reading tasks, particularly timed ones, can sometimes uncover a difficulty or potential difficulty in reading that may not be obvious from word identification. So your compensator is you're going to be able to figure out where your compensator is having issues if it's in phonics. Okay? 2 more things that I want to say about this, and then I'm going to put it to rest because this is, again, it's a component. It's not a major focus, but it definitely is a component. Phonics assessment and instruction is vital. Okay, you've got to teach them phonics for them to be able to have some type of tool. You got to teach them cipher knowledge. You got to teach them the alphabetic principle. All of that falls into phonics. You've got to teach them phonics so that they are able to read. You can't read without phonics. So you have to test phonics to know what to teach them. When you're implementing phonics skills, you have to be able to know what part of the word they're struggling with. Onset, rhyme, or the middle. Okay? The vowel. Once you figure that out, your implementations need to be based on those, building those issues. So if I know a student has an issue with onset, I'm going to have tasks for them to do with the onset. Maybe I give them a picture and I tell them, okay, put the picture under the beginning sound. Same thing for the rhyme. If it's the vowel sound, then it becomes a little bit more complex. Then we have to figure out how we get them to understand what the vowel says. Okay? And vowels are tricky. Now, assessing phonics, again, is a subtest. It needs to be part of a major picture. Why I like the Dibbles test is it'll give you a clear picture because it includes the nonsense words, which to me are a clear indication if we have an issue, okay? Other things that I want you to know about phonics, it doesn't stand alone, okay? Phonics is a component of phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, but phonics needs to be taught. You have to teach phonics to teach them how to read. If you don't teach phonics, we're in trouble. And that's why it has to be assessed, okay? Really look at nonsense words. Really try and pick up on how teachers use them. I'm going to post some videos so that you guys are aware of how teachers use them in the classroom. But nonsense words help tremendously. So I encourage you to kind of look at the videos that I post. I encourage you to take a look at how to use phonics in your classroom, and then definitely when you do a Dibbles, which again, that should be coming up soon, definitely look and see where you can find issues, okay? Phonics assessment is key. You have to be able to assess phonics so that you can come up with interventions to help the students eventually be able to have stronger word recognition skills, okay?